On the outskirts of London, less than 10 miles north of the city's border, lies a hidden camping paradise. Nestled amongst stunning scenery on the borders of Essex and Hertfordshire sits a site offering the closest thing to wild camping you can get in the English capital. A rugged natural setting boasting the chance to sleep under the stars on stunning riverside pitches or in more secluded plots among mature woodland. On a hot Friday in late June, me and a friend packed up our lightest camping gear, attached it to our bikes as best we could, and clocked off from work early for the weekend, setting off from our homes in southeast London to the most northern point of the city and beyond for our very own mini bikepacking adventure. Here we go again. My second bikepacking trip of the summer. I've got my bike fully loaded with camping equipment for the weekend. I'm currently riding across London to meet up with my friend Nick. We're going to spend the weekend camping in a little spot of luxury just on the edge of London. The campsite is around 10 miles north of Tottenham, near an area called Broxbourne, in between kind of Hertfordshire and Essex. It's an almost wild campsite, which means it's got no electricity, really minimal facilities. From our meeting point in East London, we've got around a 20-mile or 34-kilometre ride, following the beautiful River Lea towpath, basically the whole way. Really scenic, very flat, gravel path. It's gonna be a great weekend, to be honest. So yeah, let's go meet Nick in Canary Wharf. I'm being a little bit lazy and getting the DLR to Mudchute, but it's a heavy bike. After a cheeky shortcut across the city, I met up with Nick on the Isle of Dogs in East London. From where we snaked our way through the towers of Canary Wharf, onto the River Thames. I started filming, by the way.
I was wondering, so there was a eerie silence.
And worked our way up towards the River Lea, avoiding as many roads as possible as we could along the way. It was a glorious summer's day with a refreshing, gentle breeze, and because it still wasn't quite yet the weekend for most people, the usually busy canal paths and parks were usefully still really quiet. Oh, a cat. After working our way through East London and following a very small amount of getting lost.
It's on the River Lea, isn't it?
Yes, we just need to get over there. We cut through the beautiful Hackney marshes and Walthamstow wetlands and got onto the river, from where our navigation would be simple. Follow the water north until we reached our campsite. So we've just joined the River Lea now from Walthamstow in North London, and this is the canal path, towpath, riverside path we're going to follow all the way to the campsite. So we'll snake through Tottenham, and then I guess Tottenham is kind of the end of London. I'm actually not sure what is the most northern part of London. We'll follow this path up the river through Cheshunt and eventually to our campsite in Broxbourne. So I've done this route loads of times. Super scenic. Very flat, obviously, we're on a river, no traffic. Yeah, beautiful day. Some people will say the River Lea is too industrial to be considered beautiful, but for me, that's part of its charm. The juxtaposition of moorhens and coots, swans and herons, alongside the harsh warehouses, towering pylons, and even the graffiti is what makes it interesting. London gradually fading away the further north you ride. It's to our right again. Only got about 6k left to go, so we're not far from the campsite now. I've ridden this towpath quite a few times, and it's sometimes quite busy with pedestrians and other cyclists, which is fair enough. Obviously it's a shared space, but it does mean that it can be a bit of a slower ride sometimes and a bit of stopping and starting. But today it's been really quiet actually. But anyone in London, strongly suggest heading up the River Lea from kind of Tottenham area. As always, I'll leave a link to my Strava in the description of this video where you can kind of see the route and steal it if you want. But it's a really beautiful ride if you can put up with the odd sting on the legs from the stinging nettles. Good route, Nicky boy?
Yeah, very pleasant. A nice day, not too challenging.
Yeah.
My first time ever cycling, so it's nice to do something really easy.
It's a very accessible route though.
Yeah.
Like if you're not very confident, it's a really good one.
Yeah, very few roads, no real traffic, no real hills.
Just a few pedestrians to dodge.
Easy. Lot of flies.
2.5 hours after we set off from South London, and just approaching tea time, we made it to the campsite.
Where should we camp? Here?
Yeah.
We located our pitch, which fully lived up to its almost wild camping name, a bumpy patch of cleared woodland guarded by an impressively dense perimeter of nettles.
Almost wild, almost by the bins.
Unpacked our bikes,
Talk us through your setup, Nicholas.
Bike,
Yep.
tent,
Bags.
restrap.
You've gone for the pannier rack route,
Correct.
but with a little cheeky bar bag and a frame bag.
Yes.
I've gone full bike packing. You're a tourer and I'm a bike packer.
We're both wankers.
and got our tents pitched up. Once our beds were set up for the weekend, we took a stroll into town to soak up the Broxbourne culture, by which I mean a couple of pints in 2 pubs,
The Lager Man.
one slightly more up our street than the other, followed by a massive meal in a decent curry house. Stuffed, we stocked up on a few cans to enjoy around the campfire,
Matches, I even brought a lighter.
which we got burning pretty damn quickly, even if I do say so myself.
You knows it, Delia Smith.
What else would you expect from 2 30-something men who spent far too much of their youth in the Scouts? Worn out by the curry and pints as much as the cycling.
Talk us through your lamp.
Flashlight.
Flashlight.
Flame.
We settled in for an early night.
Morning. It's about 7:30. Slept pretty well actually. Just up and about the campsite. I thought I'd give you a quick tour of the campsite that we're staying at this weekend before we head off for the day. So it calls itself an almost wild campsite. Kind of does what it says on the tin really. There's minimal facilities and it's kind of as close to nature kind of campsite as you get. No showers, no electricity, a couple of kind of environmental toilets and just really basic plots. We're staying in a woodland plot and there's also these riverside plots which are on the water, slightly more cut back, but actually I'm quite pleased where we are because we've got a bit more shade from the sun. I have stayed at this campsite once before actually, around 2 years ago, and we stayed on a riverside plot then actually. It was really nice. You woke up to the sound of the birds, saw some coots and moorhens and that kind of thing. So the woodland plots this time are a bit of a different experience. But I think because it's quite hot this weekend, a bit of extra shade from the tree cover, it's actually really nice. Toilets are waterless toilets, and I was worried they might stink like a festival toilets do, but they use like some kind of chimney and airflow and separation system, and actually they're really good. Toilet review, didn't expect to be doing that on this channel. Campsite's really quiet actually, I was expecting it to be fully booked. They do seem to have given us maybe the worst plot on the campsite. Only because it's right by the car park. But it's the weekend, so perhaps more people are arriving tonight as to why we couldn't have a more in-woodland one. Yeah, perhaps it would have been a slightly more almost wild experience if we didn't keep hearing the opening and closing of car doors whilst people were picking up, I presume, belongings in the middle of the night. It's 9 AM and we are up and out. We're unimpressed with the breakfast options in the nearest town, Broxbourne, so we're cycling up for maybe 10 or 15 minutes to the next town called Hoddersdown or something like that to get ourselves a cheeky little fry up. We didn't bring any cooking equipment on this trip because it's just a 2-day little weekender and we knew we were near a town. And then after breakfast, we're going to swim further north. We're going to ride further north up the River Lea from where we were going yesterday to a little wild swim spot that I know near Hertford. So I'm afraid there will be some topless action. Trigger warning, apologies in advance. Actually, it's fake historic, isn't it? Oh, maybe some of it's real.
Another massive meal consumed. We got back onto the same river path as yesterday and followed it further north. The gravel under our tyres seemingly getting chunkier the further away from London we got. While we may have now been 20 miles north of London, the river still refused to let go of its industrial charm. The swim spot was around an hour's ride north of the campsite, but it was a warm day and our legs were tired from the heavy gravel, so the effort was worth the reward. Even if, once again, we didn't fully embrace the local culture.
Very refreshing little swim in the swim spot by Hertford. Didn't stay in too long because it was cold. Also, it turns out it's now a naturist spot, which it wasn't when I came here last, so that was a bit of fun. It's overcast, but it is properly warm, so it's actually really refreshing to have a dip and also maybe rinse off all the sweaty salts from yesterday. Now me and Nick are gonna cycle into Hertford town centre, maybe get some chips, maybe get a pint, you know us, and then see where the day takes us. Lovely time. Across the bridge, I think.
A quick dash into town later, we sank the inevitable lunchtime pint before being lured by the prospect of some friendly competition, where I may have become the first person ever to win a game of pool while wearing SPD cleats in Hertford's Shades Sports and Pool Bar.
Just had a random little afternoon in Hertford, which is kind of the nearest big town from our campsite. And now we're cycling back to the campsite. Very beautiful little country lane, actually. I'm trying to work out what the narratives of today are going to be.
Pints.
And I'm afraid one of them is going to be your 4-0 annihilation. Any reaction to that?
I potted some balls, so I'm happy. I don't expect much from life.
Back to the campsite via the Co-op, or was it Sainsbury's? Beer, pit stop, restaurant, eat, home, beer, sleep. Correct?
Yep.
It felt great to be on some smooth tarmac for pretty much the first time this weekend, while it lasted.
Commute has done us absolutely dirty. Yeah, sorry about this, old boy. I blame Commute. We always blame Commute.
A minor roads-based detour later.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal. But as I tried to convince Nick, it's all part of the story, Nick. It's all part of the story. It's all part of the adventure.
We made it home for a brief pit stop before riding out to a nearby pub for tea. Nick tucked into a decent-looking pizza.
What's for tea, Nicky? A pizza with jalapenos.
While I enjoyed the limited, but very green, vegan options. After another pint or two more of holiday indulgence,
You know the drill.
we headed back to the campsite for another chilled evening around the fire.
Negotiations with the end of you. I wanna open it up. I wanna empty it out. Fire, 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 fire,
Sunday was forecast to be a 30+ degree day, so we were up to pack early to try to beat the worst of the heat home. The weekend wasn't over yet though. We had another indulgent breakfast to enjoy before the peaceful ride home, where I continued to pester Nick with my usual nonsense chat.
It's 9:10 and we're up and out, all packed up, heading home. It's forecast to be 30 degrees at some point today, and it's meant to be like 26 by 10 AM, so we wanted to try to beat the worst of the heat and just head back early. Saying that, I'm not sure if you can tell, I'm in long sleeve. My base layer vest was simply too stinky to put on my body. I'm gonna head down the river slightly, stop off for breakfast, and then blast back down the River Lea home. Glorious weekend. So I think it was just over this bridge and then back on ourselves. Breakfast consumed, long sleeve off, too hot, long sleeve off. It's probably 28 degrees already and it's 10 AM. And just a little spin down the River Lea on a lovely Sunday morning. Any lessons learned that you'd like to pass on to the viewer from the bikepacking weekend? For example, mine would be, don't blindly trust Komoot when it's taking you down a narrow and dense path of nettles when there's a perfectly good road in front of you.
Yeah, I'd say trust the infrastructure system we've been provided for by the UK government. Roads are good, down the road.
I haven't asked you the question I ask everyone, I'm afraid, which is, what's your favourite vegetable?
When I have some time to think, I'll come back to you.
You're allowed time to think.
Tedious interruptions from me aside, we got our head down and tried to get the ride done, trying to avoid overheating in the process. Compared to the peace of Friday, Sunday's canal paths were slightly busier with weekend boozers. But even so, they're such a great option for riding your bike.
We've ridden about 30k today now. We're very much back in London, just snaking down the canals from Walthamstow wetlands through Hackney marshes. We've realised we've been riding for 2 hours today. We've not been on a single road, and that's through lots of London as well. So it shows that you can cycle through London in car-free routes.
We made it back to our Isle of Dogs Friday starting point and decided we had just about enough left of the weekend for one more pint. Plus, I couldn't let Nick off the hook that easily.
Are you of the opinion you've got away with answering the question? Vegetable?
It's the sweet potato.
And we're back home in southeast London. Very successful weekend, lots of good cycling, lots of good camping. Thank you as always for watching. If this is your first time on the channel, there's plenty more bikepacking videos and there's more bikepacking to come. So do consider subscribing to the channel if this is up your street. If bikepacking videos is the kind of stuff you want to watch, check out this video of a ride I did through Suffolk earlier this summer. And for more videos of bike rides I go on with my friends, check out this playlist of cycling vlogs. Cheers. I do not like this. It's all right, boys. Oh, fuck me, I didn't realise there was still one there. I was like, why is he swerving?